Welcome to Insane Ambition, a business and tech show breaking down lessons and playbooks from the world's most ambitious founders, investors, researchers, and changemakers.
So Peter, thanks for coming on. You are the CEO and co-founder of the Lab on the Patch company, Nutromics.
That's the one.
We're very happy that you've come on today, and we're big admirers of your work and its potential impact on the medical community. So thanks for coming on, and maybe you can introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you're working on.
Sure. I'm the CEO, co-founder of Nutromics. My background, I'm a chemical engineer, but I've been an entrepreneur for, I want to say, 23 years, 20-something years. About 23, we'll go with that. A long time. And so started off in skincare and had several skincare brands. And then sold my last brand in 2013. And then had to decide what I was going to do after that. So it's one of those pivotal moments where hopefully if you get to an exit, right, as an entrepreneur, that's always you want to get to an exit. What do you do after that? And I think talking to a lot of entrepreneurs, it's always that pivotal time where it's a fork in the road moment. And at that stage, I went back into skincare because that's what I knew, and started doing that, but. And maybe it's one of these orange moments that I was reading about right here, early on in the interview. But I had to make a decision. Do I want to continue doing that? Because you're carving out maybe, 5, 10 years of your life, right? Or do I want to do something else? And made the decision, I'm going to do something else. So I then moved into Medtech, of which I had absolutely no experience in Medtech whatsoever. But I'd been an entrepreneur for quite a while, learned a lot of skills, commercialization, running teams, marketing, trade sale, that are all transferable to what I do today. And then met my co-founder, Hitesh Mehta. That was 2017. And then we had a crazy idea. And we thought, let's do it. So we built Nutromics, and today what do we have? We have 57 staff mainly in Brunswick, Melbourne, but then we have a team in the US as well, and a small facility there in San Diego, and raised $50 million, and we've got some really good clinical data on our patch, but and the rest is history.
I have to say, Peter, it's incredible to see someone, kind of from the Australian market create something this large and impactful.
Yeah.
The technology that you're working on, it's incredible. You keep mentioning this term entrepreneur and how you kind of navigated your way and realized, I'm an entrepreneur now. I can work on any idea.
Yeah.
What does that actually mean? What do you mean by became an entrepreneur?
Okay. Yeah, it's a bit of a fancy word, isn't it? Yeah. Like when you think of it, entrepreneur, but it's basically just seeing a problem and taking it upon yourself to solve it. When I say take it upon yourself to start and then build a team, it's the team that does it. So for me, it's just a very broad definition of someone who wants to go out there and solve a problem, whatever the problem that might be. This could be you can be an entrepreneur in non-profit, you can be an entrepreneur in for-profit. It's super, super broad, right? But I love it's about that freedom, right? And taking the responsibility upon yourself to say, I'm going to give this a shot. I'm going to give it a crack. And I always think, for people thinking about this, becoming an entrepreneur, the why is really important. And at times, I come across people and it's we always hear about the people that are super successful, make huge amounts of money, and they're like right at the top, right? So think of it like a pyramid. They're right at the top. The vast majority do not make money. Right? That's the harsh reality of the game that we play, right? They don't make money. And so if you're going into this to make a huge amount of money, super risky. There's probably 1,000 easier ways to do it. But what you get is you're going to improve as a person enormously, because you're going to be putting yourself into the path of massive challenge, and you're going to have to step up, right? And that's not a small thing, right? And so every time you have a challenge and you step up, you grow as a person. And in my view, that's what you get. That's what you can bank. You can guarantee you're going to get that. So it's not what you get, it's who you become in the process. And that might seem like, oh yeah, that sounds nice, but that's really important, right? When you look back on your life, I think overcoming challenges and being a better person and growing your skills, they're really important things. They're not yeah, by the way sort of stuff. They're really important. And you do that enough, your chances of success are greatly increasing to make a lot of money too, if that's what your motivation is.
Yeah, it is a difficult life that we live as entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And I do understand we definitely grow because of it.
Yeah.
But there's not a lot of people that, as you mentioned, starting a company and having it be successful is very, very rare. Most startups fail, ours potentially included and yours potentially still included. But to be successful multiple times in different industries is a very rare trait. I can only think of maybe a couple of people that come to mind that can innovate in different industries and build successful companies.
Yeah.
You are among them. What do you think, what were the challenges that you ran through when you were transitioning from, chemical engineering and skincare companies to more of the world of medtech and biosensor patches? What was that process like?
Yeah, that's a great question. And because the notion that you have to be fixed, I have experience in, say, medical or medtech, right? Therefore, that's my career. I don't buy that, right? And I think some of the biggest innovations in the world, in fact, the biggest innovations of the world, have come from people outside of the industry. So, example, Elon Musk is the obvious one that comes to mind. He didn't work for NASA. He didn't work for a car company, and yet he revolutionized both of those industries. Now, if you had the mindset of, I must have 10, 20 years experience in a particular industry before I'm qualified to go out and solve problems in that industry, I think that's very limited, right? And it's just, frankly, incorrect. So I think if there is enough of a why, and I go back to that why, right? If there's enough of a why, and the passion is strong enough, and the problem is big enough, then absolutely I encourage everyone to find that and go for it, right? In your industry or outside of your industry, makes no difference whatsoever. In fact, it's advantageous often to be outside the industry because you don't have the paradigms that you can't help but get when you've been in an industry for 10 years. There are certain norms, there are certain paradigms that just infiltrate you, and that's it. And you don't even realize it. They're unknown, right? So to go back to your question, so that's all great, but you still need to go on this massive learning curve, right? And so that means that how do you do that? How do you do it really fast? So what we did is that we just seeked the world experts. And when I mean the world experts, I mean the world experts, wherever they are in the world. So we just had a belief that if we can find the right people, right, and engage with them, that we can go up this curve, this learning curve, super fast. That was a principle upon which we built this company, one of the principles.
Yeah. And
that made all the difference. And I'll give you one example why it made all the difference. And it goes to pivots, right? So when you're innovating, you hit dead ends all the time, right? You go down this track and it didn't work. Like the example you gave earlier before we started, right? What a lot of companies don't do is pivot fast enough, all right? So think of it, you're pre-revenue, you've got a certain amount of cash, you're burning that cash every day, all right? And you've got to learn super fast, and if something's not working, you've got to move. You've got to be super nimble, right? That's how you survive. So we engaged a few of the world experts, and literally we just reached out to them and said, we've got an idea we think is really, really important. Right? You're a world expert. We want to talk to you, and we'll fly there to America if need be And we did that, right? And we engaged with them and we learned, I don't know, like in one meeting, probably what would have taken us a year, right? So we were going down this track of measuring in sweat at one stage, right? Measuring glucose in sweat. Until we met up with a couple of world experts in that space. And they said, here's all the problems. Bang, 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 bang. And we didn't know any of those problems, right? We were just moving in that direction. We took that advice because they came with huge amounts of credibility and we pivoted away. There was another company at the time that didn't do that. They went broke. They raised $60 million and went broke because they couldn't solve all the problems that they were talking about. We pivoted and we survived and now thriving. And that's an example of, so if you're going to come outside the industry, right, great, that's fine. But you're going to have to learn super fast. How do you do that? You engage the world experts, number one. Number two, you build a team of elite individuals because you're compensating for experience you don't have, right? You don't have to have all that experience, but you need people that are world leading. Yeah.
So Peter, you have this interesting, perspective, mantra, mentality. Have you always been like this? And at what point did you realize that? Because you're almost like a purebred entrepreneur. Yeah, you're claiming I was an entrepreneur, 20 years ago. I'm assuming you're not 20 years old, right? So
no, nearly 50.
So how did you come to the conclusion that these are things that are required for us to navigate this space and to become successful fast?
I want to say one thing before I answer that question, right? The pure entrepreneur doesn't exist, in my view.
Fair enough.
And honestly, because I've been on panels before where we've talked about how do we get this country better at translation, right? Because we are excellent at research and we are horrible at translation. When I say translation, I mean taking that research, creating products and services that build jobs and growth. That's what we need, right? As a country and as a state. So, and on these panels, I don't know whether this is cultural or what. One of the reasons that we are horrible, in my view, is we have a mindset, and I'm saying, you just triggered a thought, right? So I'm not saying you have this mindset, right? But
let it flow.
I'm putting it out there, but we have a mindset that you have to tick all of these boxes, right, first before you start an endeavor. You start to be an entrepreneur. You got to be great at sales. You got to be outgoing. You got to be, all of these things. You got to have a deep domain experience. You've got to have blah blah blah, blah, right? And I think, wow, like that. Gee, that's limiting. Show me the successful entrepreneur that started with all of that. They don't. Some of the people that you least expect become successful entrepreneurs. Now, if we had our criteria list like we do here in this country often, then they wouldn't get a start because they don't tick every box. It's not about that, in my view. It's about having the passion, the drive, the motivation to solve a problem that needs to be solved. That's it. And you will learn those skills on the journey, right? The idea that you have to have all of these certain skills before you start is not how it works. You learn. It's like saying, did I have deep domain experience in Medtech? Absolutely not. Well, that would disqualify me in a lot of people's eyes from even starting. They'll say, don't start. What do you know about Medtech?
Yeah.
I mean, the requisite is to start.
The requisite is to start. Exactly. It's to start and learn fast. We talk about fail fast, but learn fast, right?
Absolutely.
So that's what we need, in my view, in this country. We need to stop you need to have a checklist of 20 before you even get started and have more of open the pipeline up, right? Let's get more giving it a crack and giving it a crack, not to be rich, giving it a crack to grow and learn and be better people, right? Because you've built your skills up because you put yourself in the way of obstacles and you've had to overcome them. Yeah, it's like the obstacles away. I don't know if you've ever read that book, right?
Yeah.
I love it. It's exactly right. Exactly right. And so that's how we progress. So the notion that we have this the pure entrepreneur. I don't believe it, and I think it's to some degree limiting to us, as a country. And in overseas, we don't have that. We don't see that. I don't see that anywhere near as much. I'm saying it's not there. It's not there to the same extent. So we can be our own most limiting factor here, and I think I don't know how that changes, right? Because that's a deep-rooted cultural, identity. But it needs to happen, and we need to stop talking about checklists and what you need to be, and start more about you believe in something, do it, do it, give it a go. You regret things you don't do far more than you regret the things you do.
God, that was inspiring.
This is inspired. It's just information that's hitting deep.
Yeah, genuinely. Okay, well, that was super inspiring. Thank you for that. I'm curious though, because even though you as an entrepreneur might be imbued with that passion and that belief in yourself, you will still have to convince those experts and those team members and those investors to believe in you and to push them enough to convince them that you are competent and that you're able to actually bring this vision to reality. Yeah. How did you do that when you didn't have any technical experience?
Yeah, I did it. You answered it in the first part of what your question.
Okay.
People are attracted to people that are passionate about what they're doing. It is magnetic. You can't fake it. It is just there or it's not there. So I say choose the ladder you're going to climb on really carefully. That's one of the biggest things. Like, choose that carefully, right? And make sure you really, really believe in this. Don't do it it goes back to the why. Don't do it because you think there's more money to be made in this market rather than this market, right? That's a poor why, in my view, right? The money is a consequence of having a strong why and a strong reason for doing it, right? It's got to transcend the money. It's too superficial, right? So when you truly believe in what you're doing, if it's a big idea, and if the problem is pretty self-evident, that helps, right? If you have to do a lot of education around the problem, that's much, much harder. If the problem is more self-evident and you're really passionate about it, then people will gravitate towards you. Now, you have to present yourself. You can't, you got to have a certain level of professionalism and show that you can execute and you can do things, and that'll come. People will give you a shot. But, and to your point, the people that are the world experts are the ones that get helped the most. Everyone wants to talk to the world experts, right? But not everyone does it and says, look, here's the problem. Here's our solution. Here's how I think you can help us. And this is a worthy problem to solve. And you do it with passion, and you take the effort and you go there and you do it face to face. Those are the things that nothing's a guarantee. And you might have to do it 2-3 times, right? And you might have to get to know them. It's not a transactional one and done. But you do that enough, and you will find, as we did, people will respond to that. I'll give you an example, and it goes to the origin of this company. All right. So we have a technology that can monitor any diagnostic target continuously and in real time. So the product that's most similar to this, so I'm wearing one now, right? The product that's most similar to this is the continuous glucose monitor, CGMs, right? Now that is dominated by 3 companies: Dexcom, Abbott, and Medtronic, right? And that's a $10 billion per year revenue industry. So those 3 companies have carved out $160 billion of enterprise value from one product, measuring one thing, right? So that's the market that we were in early on. And we came across a new technology using DNA. And it's from a guy called Professor Kevin Plaxco out of UCSB, Santa Barbara in the US. And we thought that's exactly what we want, right? We don't want to be like everyone else, have the same tech, because that technology, the continuous glucose monitors, can just do glucose, pretty much. That's it, right? And so we thought, how do we get access to this? So it goes to your question, how do we engage with someone? We're 2 guys in Melbourne, the other side of the world, and there's 10 papers written on this tech, all in animal models, showing that it works. So how can we get access to that? Everyone would want to get access to that, right? So we could have just said, okay, well, that's not going to happen. Forget about it, right? Like, what chance is there, right? We could have easily said that, and maybe a lot of people would. We didn't do that, right? We said, let's find a way. So we flew there. So we flew to LA. We got an Uber for 3 hours, right? This is like the longest 36-hour day. In fact, this whole day for us.
Is this unannounced?
This is
like,
no. We did say we're coming. we were not that crazy.
Not at their residential home. As they're gardening.
Yeah, we go. You don't know us. He goes, go away. No, it wasn't one of those situations. But so he knew we were coming. It kind of reluctantly. Okay, yeah. So anyway, because he's a very, very prestigious professor in biosensing, right? Very sought after. So we get there. We're like jet lagged. We're like. I remember the walls moving behind him. Right? Like, it's like, oh my God, this is our one chance. I'm gonna blow it here. So we have this chat. I reckon he gave us half an hour and said, "Okay, thanks guys. I think half an hour's up."
That's his response.
Yeah, pretty much. It was like.
So was the conversation guided on trying to extract information from him, or was it just trying to build rapport?
We wanted to get access to the tech. Right, so we thought the best. We don't know. We've never done this. So we thought, well, how do you do a licensing deal, right? International licensing deal. So we thought, let's talk to the professor, and he's influential. He'll help. He might be able to help, right? So in the end, he said, "Oh, thanks, guys. Well, let's see how it goes." It was one of those conversations, right? So we head back to Melbourne, and we thought, okay, well, where do we go from here, right? So we thought, we're not going to give up, right? This is the principle of a dog with a bone. There's always a way, always a way, right? Just keep going. You'll find a way. So we thought, we learnt about, there's a tech transfer. So all universities have tech transfer. I don't even think we knew about that when we did the first trip, right? This is going back in 2020, just before the pandemic. And so we go back again. So now we're meeting with the tech transfer people. And so we do the flight, we do the 3-hour Uber. We learnt there was actually an airport in Santa Barbara. Nice. That was after the fact, so that would have been useful anyway. So anyway, we're there with the tech transfer, and she says, "Look, guys, love to help you out, but the tech's been licensed to another company in Baltimore, and there's nothing I can do with it, right? There's nothing I can do about it. That's it." And so. We thought, oh, crap, like that's 2 trips. What are we going to do? But she gave us a little bit of, just towards the end as we're leaving, she goes, I think they're going to send, they just did brain implants, right? So they do sensing in the brain. And they don't want all the fields of the license. So they're going to send it back, but we've already promised it to this other company. Yeah, the sweat company I was telling you about? Yeah. That one. Nice. Right? So we knew it was coming back. She said, and so we said, "Oh, but could we do a deal with you?" And she goes, "No, that's it. I've verbally told them it's theirs, and I'm going to honour that, and that's it." So we had a choice, right? We said, "Well, we can go back to Melbourne and just, I don't know, pivot to something else. This is fundamental. This is what tech are we going to use, right?" Or we had an idea. We said, "Why don't we fly to Baltimore, speak to these guys, and maybe they won't send it back. Maybe they'll do a deal with us." So we didn't know them from Barasota. So we call them up. We flew out there. We had a meeting. They said, "Give us 10 minutes." They came back and they said, "All right, you got it." That literally was the moment that our company was made, in that moment. Wow. All right. So we had the tech. We did a consulting arrangement with them, so it made it worth their while. And now since then, we've now had the head lease, and then we subleased to them because it made more sense. And then we've built our IP around that and sort of leapfrogged that anyway. But that was the moment, right? And going back to the principles, right, of there's always a way. And I think that passion combined with just never giving up, right? Always find a way. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Persistence. I know Sam Altman, I saw in a recent interview, he said the number one differentiator of successful entrepreneurs, if I had to distill it to one thing, is persistence. I absolutely agree. It is just you don't give up. If you believe in it enough, right, that's your fuel, you will find a way. You just keep going, keep looking for the angles, keep going, don't give up. and you'll find a way. And that's just an example of that. And that's a principle we built this company on that. You know, work with the world's best, always find a way, recruit the best people in the world. That's literally it. That's how we built the company, on those 3 principles.
Incredible.
Yeah, it's just genuinely inspiring. I'm also curious about investment. So this deal would not have been able to happen if it wasn't for either you putting money behind the deal to sub-license it, or if you had an investment behind you. How did you convince your first investor to back your project and to make deals like that happen?
Yeah, that's great. It's all of everything I said is great, but you need the money, right, to make it happen. So we started with an accelerator that we were talking about earlier.
The Medtech actuator.
The Medtech
really?
actuator,
Yeah.
Buzz and Michelle. So we did, this is going back late 2017. So and we were invited back recently to redo the pitch that we did. We did this pitch.
Nice.
It was the world's worst pitch. It was so bad. When we forgot how bad it was until.
Do you have a video of it?
I hope not. I hope not. We actually. So this was obviously this new tech that I was telling you about, and we started off with an optical technology out of Germany that could measure carotenoids, which is an antioxidant in skin. Because I was doing this new skincare brand and working with this company. And that's where I got the idea. I thought, well, what else could you use the tech for? Could you use it to measure other things other than these carotenoids that they were measuring? That's where actually the whole company started, right? And so we thought, it's crazy I'm thinking about it, but we thought we're going to do a carotenoid sensor and measure people's it had something to do with carrots. Carrot health was the amount of carrots you eat. Are you eating enough carrots? Something crazy like that. I can't even recall. Anyway, so about a year ago, Buzz and Michelle said, "Can you come back and do that talk?" Probably because they wanted to take the piss out of us a little bit. and when we revisited it, it was. I said to Michelle, I don't know how you chose us after that. But anyway, we got in. Somehow we got in.
Yeah.
Because with the first cohort, I just assumed there was only 6 people pitching and 6 people had to get in, and we were like the 6th or something. But so yeah. Anyway, so part of that there was funding, a small amount of funding from a VC, and that was it. That's how we started, and then we went and got a grant. There was 2 things that changed the company's trajectory. The first one was the tech. The second one was this grant. So we got it's called a CRCP, a really good grant, industry led. A lot of grants I wouldn't recommend because it's too much work for too little result. This one I would. So it's up to $3 million. There was like 3 of us at the time, 3 or 4, and we got $2.2 or $2.3 million grant. It was just mind blowing, right? And there's a story about how we got that, but yeah, and that kind of then just took us to another level, and it's like this snowball, right? So when we got that, there was a VC that we were talking to, and they said, "Oh, you got that? That's really good validation." Then they put some money in.
Nice.
So now we had 2 VCs and a grant, and then we just grew and grew and grew, and then we brought on Dexcom. So that's one of the 3 big CGM manufacturers. They're a $45 billion company in the US. They came on board. They're big strategic, so it validates what we're doing technically. And so we've just grown from there and kept raising.
So, Peter, how much of this was, the network that you were building? How much of that success is because of the network that you were building?
Yeah, that's a really good question because most of it. Right, is a short answer. I mean, I don't give long answers here, but I'll give you a short one now.
Exactly,
yeah. So the CEO's number one job is don't run out of money, right? And most people who are founders, they found companies because they love the problem, love the tech. They don't love raising money. You got to be elite at raising money. Right, because the rest of it doesn't matter. If you don't have the money, the rest of it just doesn't happen. Right, so So what happens normally is that entrepreneurs will look at campaigns. So I can do nothing now. I can chill out and relax, and I'll work on my tech and all the rest of the stuff. And then when we need money, I'm going to open up a campaign, and that is disastrous, right? That is probably the number one reason companies fail, literally. They run out of money. In fact, it is the number one reason. Probably it is the number one reason. And the data backs that up. I just saw it recently. So the number one advice I give to entrepreneurs is always be cap raising. You never stop cap raising, right? Always be cap raising. What does that mean? My second question is that I ask them is, how many pitches have you done this week? You know what? Then the answer I normally get back is 0. None. Right? So you need to be doing at least 1, 2, 3. Like you need to be constantly pitching
to different people
every week. I do now. I'm literally pitching every week.
So like what does that actually look like? The pitch? Like, wait, do you just like referring to having a conversation with someone, or are you actually getting someone in a room with a whiteboard and pitching them? So
for number one, it's if I can, it's face to face.
Yeah.
So I'm in the US about every 2 months, right? That's expensive, right? It's time consuming. Got a family, got my son here, Hugo. I got 3 kids, wife and 3 kids. So I got to balance that. But I'm in the US because that's where the vast majority of the capital is. Every 2 months, and I'm pitching face to face, because this is a relationship game. This is not transactional. No one's going to cut a $20 million check on someone they just met, unless the market's going ballistic like in 21, right? In this market, we're in a apocalyptic winter, is how I describe it, literally.
Fantastic.
This is the worst. I'm so sorry to say it, but it's the worst market right now, and it's been that way for 18 months.
Yeah.
And again, the data backs that up, right? So you need to stand out. You need to develop relationships. So you're either doing new pitches to new VCs or investors or angels or family offices or whatever stage you're at, right? Constantly doing that, or you're giving them updates. You're saying, we're not open. This is what we call a non-deal roadshow. We'll go to the US, so it'll be me, my CFO, Rowan, and CMO, Agim, and that's the cap raise team of 3 of us, right? And we will either do a pitch to new VCs, or we'll give updates to existing ones that we know. We're taking them on a journey. And then when we open a round, right, they know us, they understand their tech, they trust us, and that is the time, that gives you the ability to raise, right? And it's so important, even especially in this market. So whether you do Australians or you do Australian investors or US or mix, whatever it is, you just got to be doing it and focusing at least probably 25% of your time, which is going to be the majority. If you stack up top to bottom all the activities you do, you need to be constantly fostering those relationships and raising money, and not waiting like a lot of entrepreneurs unfortunately do till it's too late. Your runway's too short. And either they don't raise and they run out of money, it's all over, or they get absolutely taken to the cleaners because some rogue is going to come in there and take advantage of them because they're desperate.
Yeah.
And that happens all the time.
You end up selling office furniture.
Basically. It could be. Or just, you do crazy liquidation preferences, just all the stuff that you hear about, right? But that's really important. There are some fundamentals that cut across all entrepreneurs. Right? These things they're just fundamental. It doesn't matter whether you're in Medtech or any other industry. These things still are the things that matter, in my view.
I mean, this is advice that I think Oliver and I can take on board. We're trying to raise around ourselves at the moment. And as you said, the climate is apocalyptic.
It's apocalyptic, yeah.
If you were to recommend what we should do, so we're going to the US, to San Francisco in 10 days now.
Almost.
Doing a bit of a tour, San Francisco, New York, Boston. And we've been talking to Australian investors and a couple of US investors for about 6 months or so. But no funding yet. Nothing VC backed. what would your advice be to young founders that haven't done it before, that are still building their tech, that are divided between building the tech, trying to talk to customers, and trying to raise capital, and they don't know what to prioritize?
Yeah.
How would you navigate that?
That's a tough one.
It is. I feel like it is tough.
It's a tough one, right? Look, I would look, if you're brand new at this, right, or you're pretty new at this, right, which every single person is at some stage, that's completely normal. It goes back to that, you want a learning curve like that, right? The quicker you get up that curve, the less risky your venture is going to be, right? So how do you do that, right? You talk to people that have done it before, right? Number one, that's free, costs you nothing. I've done that for 20 years. I just literally call up on other entrepreneurs and say, I love what you're doing. Can I grab a coffee and pick your brain? You know how many times I've had a no? I don't think almost. Very rare. Very rare. Right? People are very willing typically to share information for someone who wants to learn. That's one thing. I tell you who I do that with, Chris Roberts, who is the ex-CEO of Cochlear and founding director of ResMed. So probably Australia's, I don't know, would have to be one of Australia's best-known Medtech executives in the country, right? What he's done is unparalleled. Two biggest Medtech success stories are ResMed, you know, the sleep apnea equipment, and Cochlear. And through a mutual connection, I said, can you connect me to Chris? I'd love to speak to Chris. And then from there, we had monthly chats. And now he's the chairman of Nutromics, right? So something small, one chat can lead to that, right? And we massively benefit from his experience, right? So things like that, I think take up every opportunity. It's just be proactive, right? There's no secret here. Be proactive. Ask for connections. Follow up when you get them. These are basics, right? What else? And do a lot of them. You learn by doing, right? Just do a lot of pitches. Just talk to a lot of investors. Ask a lot of questions. They're fundamentals, right? You can it goes for anything. How do you learn anything? Speak to people who've done it before. Do a lot of it. Learn fast. Be a sponge. It's the same principles, right? It's exactly the same with raising money. So that would be my advice. And I think you can do it, even if it's foreign and you think, learn to love it, right? Change your mindset from I hate doing this because that's going to make it harder on you to this is a challenge and I reckon I can do it. Let's see if I can do it. Put it out there. Put the challenge out there.
Reminds me of a chapter in Elon Musk's biography where he was trying to learn rocket engineering. He didn't know anything about it, so he just picked up a book. Read the textbook on rocket science, and then hit up some rocket engineers in Las Vegas, had, multiple hour chats with them, kept asking questions. And, when the biographer interviewed these people that Elon had questioned, they said that this man just kept asking me questions until he genuinely knew about 80% of what I had known in my entire life, but within the span of a few hours. Yeah. So I think that he's
look, love him or loathe him, right? He's a freak.
Very unique.
He's a freak because he's not only a freak because he's done amazing. You can't not say what he's done isn't amazing. Like, it is phenomenal, right? Almost unprecedented in multiple industries, right? That's the crazy thing, right? But he's also a freak in that his technical expertise is phenomenal. I remember I've read his biography and it's a really interesting read, right? His technical ability to go up that learning curve, right, is insane. Like, that's what he does mainly. He's a CEO, but he's not really a CEO. He's more of a technology geek almost, right? He spends most of his time not on running the company, but on the tech. So he's very unusual from a CEO perspective, right?
So I suppose the question on my mind is at what cost, right? Yeah. Because to be so broad with breadth in all facets of your company, technology and business-wise, you almost urge on side of spreading yourself fairly thin.
Yeah, I agree.
And so where is the balance there? And how do you navigate that?
I wouldn't recommend that. I mean, he's a 1 in 7 billion, right? Like I don't know if anyone could replicate that. I think what I do is I don't try and be personally the technical expert, right? I don't need to be. I need to have a good grounding in it, but not to the extent that he does. I need to raise the money. I need to build a team of elite individuals. I need to make sure the culture is elite. We have a really strong culture. People want to work there. They don't want to leave. They believe in the vision, and the last one is I've got to create a vision, and communicate that vision that people that is compelling, right? That deep down, that passion that I had and that Hitesh has, my co-founder, is we're looking for people that resonate with that. They have that passion, because you get a group of people that have that are technically brilliant and have this passion that we have to bring this to market. People are dying unnecessarily, and we have a product that literally can save lives. How can you not get behind that and just put every ounce of energy into that to make that become a reality at speed as quickly as possible? And they're the people. So there's like whatever that 5% of people we talk to, they just exude that, right? I have to be in your company, sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
So they're the ones. And then you get in that, there is this synergistic effect when you get that group. It's like a 1 + 1 = 10.
Yeah.
And everyone feeds off each other, and it just drives us. And in some respects, the challenge, it's a marathon, right? It's not a sprint. Sometimes we have to pull them back and say, remember, guys, you got to look after yourselves. You got to, you got to go home. So that's a good problem to have, right? And you know that your culture is strong when you have people that just are that passionate about it.
Absolutely.
Hard to come by, I'd say, just finding the best talent. How have you gone about trying to find the best people?
Yeah, that's a great question, because it's one thing to have the aspiration, but as we all know, it's about execution.
Yeah.
Right. So we do a lot of things on that, and we spend a lot of time on that. So we don't geographically, we look all over the world.
Yeah.
Right. We have a broad network. So we have a specialist. What we do is on DNA sensing is a very specialist field. And there are certain universities that are known for that. So we've engaged the professors, right? They're on our biosensor advisory board. So we have a biosensor advisory board of all the world leaders in this space. And then as they produce students that graduate, the best of the best, we then bring them on. And one of the main reasons that we built our R&D facility in San Diego is that we know that not everyone can come to Melbourne. So we have I think about maybe 20% of our workforce is international, so have come over. So that's quite a few, right? But I know not all, and we don't want to lose the best of the best. So everyone loves San Diego, and if you've ever been there, but it's a beautiful place to live. So having a facility there where we can accommodate, great talent, that was one of the main drivers. So we have the relationship with the university, we have the relationship with the professors, and we have the proximity so that we can find those right people. Now that's just for one field. We have engineers, we have a whole range. So we work with very good recruiters that are constantly looking for talent. We do talent mapping years in advance, so we know what roles are coming up. And how I said we foster relationships with investors. This is as important, talent. We're fostering relationships with future employees as well, because it's not transactional. We're getting to know them, right? We meet when we go to the US. We meet up with them. And when the time is right, then we say, there's the opening if you're interested. So that's just, I would call this focusing on the things that move the needle in your business, right? You know, raising capital, you have to have that. Getting the best talent, you can't say it and then not put the time and effort behind it. So you have to always be doing that. That's another one of those, you're always recruiting. You're always fostering those relationships. So that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's lots of other things we do, but it's something that we are always looking to improve upon as well.
Incredible.
Yeah.
I think that's something that we can learn from, as can a lot of our audience. I'm sort of curious about the product now. Like you mentioned that you're not the technical expert on the team, but you've learned enough about it where you can probably share Aptima sensor technology.
Yeah.
What actually are you building? What is the problem? And how do you think it's going to help people?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm wearing it now. This is our product. I don't know if you can see that. So basically what it is, under there are, not in this version, but there are small micro needles, right? 1 to 2 millimeters. So very, very small.
How many?
There are 4.
Sounds painful.
Okay. Yeah, no. Well, actually, interesting you say that.
Yeah.
So the clinical studies we've done, right, we asked them to rate on a pain scale of 0 to 10, right? The average is 0.3.
Wow. You
can't feel it. And the 0.3 is basically I felt some pressure, so you can't feel it, right? But basically what is under your skin, you have this fluid called interstitial fluid. And why don't you have ever seen this if you had a blister? So you know the fluid in the blister? That's interstitial fluid. And essentially it's the fluid between the cells in your skin. So how do things go between the cells in your skin? Well, it goes via this interstitial fluid. And we're bathed in it, all of us, right? So we have 3 times as much ISF, we call it, than blood. So think about that, there's a lot of ISF, right? And so what we're doing is we're tapping into that matrix. So think about things in your circulatory system, right? They transfer, they perfuse out into your interstitial fluid, and then they get eliminated, right? So that's how it works, right? So what this does is you pop it on, and on the tips of those microneedles, we have a sensor. That's that DNA-based sensor that I was telling you about. So it can monitor any diagnostic target continuously and in real time. So what does that mean? So think about the last time you had a blood test, right? You went in and had a blood test. They drew the blood, sent it to the lab. They processed it, and they came back a day, 2 hours, whatever it was later, and they said, here's a list of all these things, and here's your readings, right? Now, for a lot of diagnostic targets, that's fine. They don't change. If you ever had a diabetes test and they're measuring a thing called HbA1c, right? It's an average of 3 months. You don't need to constantly measure that, right? But there are certain diagnostic targets that change rapidly. They're up and down. So imagine if you're a doctor, you're in hospital, so you take a blood draw from a patient, right? You're trying to diagnose something, or maybe you're trying to dose them with a drug, right? And you need to get their levels. And you get one data point. And what do you do with that data point? Is that going up? Is it going flat? Or is it going down? You got no idea. That's how 70% of clinical decisions in hospitals around the world use lab diagnostics just like that. Like I just
point. Is that what you're saying?
1 point.
1 point in time.
Yeah. And for lots of diagnostic targets, in fact hundreds, they're like this. They change rapidly. So what happens is that the doctor does the best with the information that they have, right? And unfortunately, it's grossly insufficient. And it costs lives, and it costs billions of dollars in hospital inefficiency. Remember, 70% of all clinical decisions are made using this lab diagnostics like I just explained.
Yeah.
All right, it's the mainstay of hospital. So that's the problem, right? The solution, right, and this is why people are drawn, why we're passionate about what we do, is that we can monitor many of those diagnostic targets continuously. So think about all that lab, the drawing of the blood, the going to the lab, or the lab equipment, all the process and infrastructure is done on that. That's why we call that a lab on a patch. We're not drawing it out and sending it somewhere. It's actually done on the patch. That is the lab.
Interesting. I mean, I'm curious because a traditional blood test, for example, will take potentially a few mil of your blood in order to diagnose and make judgment on someone's health.
Yep.
What is the sensitivity of these microneedles?
Well, of the sensor. The sensor itself, yeah.
Like how much of the reactant is required in order to detect?
Yeah. So we're not. It's not a fixed volume. We're continuously monitoring in a matrix.
Yeah.
Right. So when you talk about sensitivity, what we're talking about is there's selectivity, sensitivity, certain parameters when you go to biosensor. Sensitivity refers to how low a concentration can you monitor in, right? So we've got data down to what we call picomolar, right? That's very low, right? And we're driving down to what we call femtomolar concentrations. So very, very small concentrations, being able to accurately measure in that. So that's in terms of sensitivity, that's what we can measure in.
What even is that? Like 10 to the negative
It's
14?
a million. I think it's a million.
Pico is 10 to the negative 12, right?
So now you challenge me. Picomolar is, someone quickly Google it.
It doesn't matter.
-12,
I think, the sensitivity of an ELISA assay, which is something traditionally used in a lab, is in picomolar.
Yeah.
So if it's more than that, that's fairly impressive. I must say.
Yeah. So that's what we've done already, and we're still early in the piece.
Yeah.
And we're driving down to I'll tell you one application that we're really excited about in the femtomolar range is heart attack diagnosis. So in the US, I'll use US stats because we talk to the US a lot. So there's 10 million people that have chest pain, and they go through what's called the chest pain protocol, right? So listen to the thing, someone's got chest pain, call an ambulance rocks up, they chuck leads on, and they send them to hospital. And they go to hospital, and then to diagnose a MI, myocardial infarction, they need 2 data points for a protein called troponin, right? So when you have a heart attack, this troponin goes through the roof, right? So they go in, they take a blood draw, gets sent to the lab, comes back an hour later, then they wait, then they take another blood draw, gets sent to the lab, because all of our troponin levels are all different right now. So you can't diagnose from the baseline, right? It has to be rise or fall pattern, right? 5 to 6 hours is the average time it takes, that's gold standard, to diagnose a heart attack. Once they diagnose, you send them to the cath lab, right, and they get treated. 10% of people that go through this chest pain protocol are having a heart attack. So the vast majority are not. That's why they can't send them all to the cath lab and open up their chest, obviously, right? But the problem is 5 to 6 hours, their heart's occluded and heart muscles are dying, right? So time is muscle is what they call it, right? So time is a huge factor. So with the troponin sensor on our patch, look at another scenario. The ambulance turns up, they whack on a patch, first thing. Within 10 minutes, we're streaming 1 data point, 1 concentration a minute. So within 10 minutes, we'll see a rise or fall pattern. So we're going to reduce it from 5 to 6 hours to 10 minutes for heart attack diagnosis. That's a paradigm shift.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So that's great for the people that are having a heart attack because they go straight into the cath lab. Chances of survival radically better. But for all the people that aren't having a heart attack, they're not having the stress, all the resources in hospital of all of these blood tests, the labs, all the rest of it. They avoid all that. And then they get worked up for something else because there's some reason why they're having chest pain. Might be anxiety or some other problem. So that's one example of what you can do when you can monitor any diagnostic target continuously and in real time.
Absolutely. You mentioned sort of before the podcast that you're focused primarily, initially at least, on the ICU because this is where it's needed the most, sort of measuring troponin levels.
Yeah.
But what's your vision beyond that? Like, are you anticipating that we'll have, multiple aptamer sensors on the same patch that can basically have a library of biomolecules that you can detect and you have like full surveillance of your internal biochemistry, or what's the vision?
A complete biohacking
the big
product.
vision. So you're absolutely right. We're starting with the ICU because the need is greatest. And that example wasn't an ICU example, right? That's a community setting. ICU example, where we're starting is therapeutic drug monitoring of this antibiotic called vancomycin. So 1 in 6 of all people who go into the ICU get this drug called vancomycin. It has a very narrow therapeutic window. So imagine you've got a bacterial infection, you might have sepsis, right? Life-threatening. They give you this drug, and they've got to get you into this narrow therapeutic window, and that's where it's killing the bacteria, right? Now, half the time they miss it, right? Because if we all got the same dose, the concentrations in our bodies would all be different, right? Because of the way it's cleared a whole range of different reasons. And a lot of people get toxic doses. And a lot of people die because of those toxic doses. In fact, there's 100,000 people that go into hospital in the US with a bacterial infection, and the drug kills them.
I didn't know that.
So the bacterial infection doesn't kill them. The drug kills them. They get a toxic dose, they get an acute kidney injury, and they die. So it gives you a bit of an idea of how difficult it is to dose this drug, right? Because they're taking a blood draw, comes back hours later, they're getting limited information. The same problem. The same problem occurs over and over again that we're solving here, right? So whereas we can put a patch on, measures the vancomycin, and that means that the doctor can get a patient into that therapeutic zone quickly and then just keep them there outside the toxic zone. So that's one application, and that's where we're going to start in the ICU. And we're going to save thousands of lives just with that one product, right? And then beyond that, we're measuring kidney health because that's a renally cleared drug, and the guidelines always call for monitoring the health of the kidneys. So the gold standard biomarker is creatinine, so monitoring that because the two go together. And then what we do is we keep layering on, to your point basically, we have a library of sensors. And the beauty of this is that we don't create a whole new product. We leverage the same product, and all we do is we put another needle, another microneedle, another sensor onto the same product. And we have a whole new product. Another microneedle, another sensor, another whole new product. And even that one sensor like creatinine, we can point that in all these different directions. We can point it towards therapeutic drug monitoring for vancomycin, like I mentioned, but we can point it into these other directions, chronic kidney disease, acute kidney injury, all these other applications that are enormous unmet needs. And we don't actually change the product at all. We have to go through a new FDA process, right, which you have to do for every indication. But effectively, we have a whole new product without having to keep on to change this product. So it means we can have an unprecedented deployment of new products at a scale that pretty much no one's seen before. Because we don't have to go, for every new product, for most companies, they have to start at scratch, new product. Tens of millions of dollars, years. We do that once, and then we leverage it over and over again.
Here's a question. The FDA, do we really need them?
Yes. Only if you want safe, efficacious products. If you don't,
some countries don't have it. Maybe you should go there.
There are some countries that are low reg, no reg. We absolutely need the FDA.
Peter's like, we have an office there actually. We do most of our trials there.
I have to say that.
If you want to sell into that market, it's you have to do the right thing, right? There's no shortcuts here. This is a medical device that's there to save lives. It has to be credible. People have to trust it. We have to go through the right processes. There are a whole range of checks and balances, but we have our own checks and balances that are more rigorous than that anyway. Because we have to know ourselves. We're not going to sell a product unless we know, regardless of rules and regulations. We have to be confident. We have to say that our kids, Hugo here, for example, I've got to be confident to say, I trust it for him, right? Because if I don't, then it shouldn't go to anyone else.
Wow. Does that answer your question, Ben?
I think so.
Have you asked that one before?
No, I mean, Oliver and I are just...
we have our debates.
We have our debates about regulation and the necessity of regulation.
And bureaucracy
I'm sure regulation's needed, but I think there are a lot of people that think it moves too slowly. There's more we can do.
Different question though, right? So you're saying, do we need it? Absolutely.
versus the speed.
Is it efficient?
No.
That's another question, right? Can it be improved? That's another question again. So I would have different answers for those. But do we need it? Right? Of course you do. You can't have industry regulating itself on a medical device that is that can be the difference between life and death. In my view,
what could possibly go wrong?
What could possibly go wrong?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Wow. So I'm curious, how long do those patches last?
Well, in the first application, it's in the ICU. It's 24 hours.
Okay.
And that's not because the patch only lasts 24 hours. It can last a lot longer.
Yeah.
In the ICU for infection control,
Oh, I see.
they have to turn
It's
it
high
over
risk.
you got critically ill patients, they turn it over every 24 hours regardless.
Sure.
But we got data for 7 days, and we think we can push it out to probably well beyond 2 weeks. Well, we'll see. But we think for some of the other applications that in the community setting, 2 weeks, 2-3 weeks would be probably optimal.
Do you envisage people wearing that product like ongoing? Like buying, several patches a month, transferring them every
look,
so week?
I didn't quite answer your question before, right? But the vision of where this is going to go. And where we started, Hitesh and I, was in the community setting. That's where we wanted to take it, right? And we pivoted to the ICU for the right reasons, because that's where we can have the biggest impact straight away. But in terms of the community setting, there are a lot of opportunities for high-risk individuals. So think about people with, heart failure, a whole range of different disease states where early intervention would be beneficial, right? And we can roll off a whole load of them. They're the individuals that we want to get this product to. Because we always hear, the stories of, if only we found this earlier, if only we knew about this earlier. That's the mantra, right? And that's the holy grail of medicine, is that preventative medicine and the early detection of disease states. So when you can monitor diagnostic targets continuously, then you can get the earliest possible notification of either a disease or a disease progression.
Yeah.
Initiating or a disease progression. And then that gives you the greatest ability to improve that patient outcome when you get it early, well before symptoms ever become present. Because the whole idea of symptomatic diagnosis is really archaic. Wait for the symptom.
Well, it's too late
And
in a lot of cases.
Often it's been latent and progressing for months or years. So this has that ability, we believe, outside of we're going to start in the ICU. That's where the bar is highest. Yeah. That's the most critically ill patients. We're going to move to the general ward, and then we're moving outside into the community setting.
Do you ever see it being used for early detection of cancer?
Look, I'll tell you there are certain cancer drugs that are candidates for therapeutic drug monitoring. That's probably where there would be an early use case, clinical utility for that. I wouldn't want to comment because we don't have any data on that yet. Sure. Could it potentially? Potentially, yes. But I think you always got to be careful with comments around that sort of thing. So, down the track, it would be something that we would certainly look at, but it's not something we're actively looking at right at the moment.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
The FDA made him say that.
That's right.
It's like, I didn't want to say this, but
I think it's
a fair question. It's a good question, right? It's an obvious question.
I mean, I was just curious,
it's an obvious question,
coming from the field, right?
Yeah.
Just understanding like what are the current limitations of it, and what it might look like in the future for cancer patients.
Well, when you think of, the question, gee, if only I caught that earlier, the first thing that comes to mind, I think, for most people is cancer, right? It can be heart failure, it can be lots of different things, but yeah, I mean, we do a lot of work on, of all the things we could do, what should we do? What should we do, number one? What should we do, number two? They're critical decisions. If we stuff up number one, we don't get to number two.
And they all require their own kind of, moment of thought as well.
It's hugely critical. Yeah.
Reminds me a lot of almost like the Neuralink approach, solving a problem for people that are paralyzed and they can't use they're paraplegic, they can't use their laptop or their computer, or trying to enable people that are paralyzed to be able to walk. And then expanding that out into the community and having this like broader mission of integrating humans with AI and giving us superpowers.
Seeing where the technology takes us.
Something that I'm really excited about that I would want to see from like a company like Nutromics would be to have like full biological surveillance of what's going on inside of my body at all times. And you can imagine also that the more biomolecules you add to your patch, the more almost emergent properties can come out of the data that you extract. There was a study that was published a little while ago on how these researchers used pictures of your eyes in order to measure all sorts of things about you, your age, your sex, even like certain biomarkers potentially. And a lot of information is stored in that photo. You can imagine a lot of information is stored not just with the individual levels of certain biomolecules, but in their proportions related to each other. And the more data you have, the more potential it is that you could put that into a machine learning model and have insights you could have never imagined come out of it. Do you have a vision or a strategy on that, like this the far off vision?
No, it's not a far off vision. In fact,
okay.
The way that we look at the clinical applications is like a pyramid. Right, we know right at the tip, and I gave you some examples: therapeutic drug monitoring, early diagnosis of myocardial infarction. There's a whole lot, but they're at the tip, right? This technology, I see this like a paradigm shift. Right, and it's a tool, that we don't even know, when fully explored, all the applications that are going to come from it. So how do we do that? How do we? My job is to say, how do we maximize the potential of this tool, and we do it quickly, right? And one way to do that is through open innovation. Again, going back to the basics, right? We collaborate with the world's best. So what we do is we collaborate with hospitals, universities, and we give them access to research use only devices, RUO we call them, right? So that's a device that we can produce in small numbers, bespoke to a particular application. Now, there are a lot of researchers that have taken their research to a certain point, and it might be, we believe that molecule X, Y, and Z is an early biomarker of heart disease, for example, right? Now, for them to actually then progress that, they actually have to do a clinical study, and they have to measure it, and they have to measure it continuously. And that's where it all falls down, because they can't. The technology doesn't exist. Right? So what we have is what we call an enabling technology. And the best way to think about it is the telescope, right? So when the telescope came around, then discoveries made, in astronomy went through the roof, because now we can see all these things, and we can make these. It's an enabling technology. So ours is an enabling technology for medicine, right? And we want to make that available, right? That is the open innovation. And so what that does, it enables researchers to then progress their research to make their discoveries, because you need the clinical application to make the discovery. But it also gives us new products. Because now we know X, Y, and Z is an early biomarker of that disease state, because now we have the data through our association. So it's good for us, it's good for them, and that's the rest of that pyramid, right? That's the bottom that we haven't even discovered yet. And we can't even imagine the use cases, because there are going to be brilliant scientists that take this in all these different directions and make all these discoveries that we couldn't possibly... Think of the internet. In the early 90s when it first started, could we have imagined where it's... There's no way you could imagine it, right? It's been taken by all these people in all these different areas. And so I'm not saying it's the internet, but it's analogous that it's a technology that can go in... It solves lots of problems that we can't even imagine. But we're going to develop, and we are developing, relationships and a structure that'll enable that speed of innovation that we can't do internally. We can only do through partnering. And then we bring that into our pipeline of commercialization products. That's what we do internally.
Wow. Peter, what do you want your legacy to be? My
legacy? Well, Hugo and I were talking about this just earlier today, weren't we? I mean, personally, I actually don't. Once I'm dead, I'm dead, right? So
you go close your eyes.
I'm a bit of a fan of Stoic philosophy, right? And in Stoicism, the idea of a legacy, we play it up as a big deal, right? But the reality is that we do our best once we're here on the earth, and we've got a very short time, and no one knows when button's going to get turned off, and what happens afterwards. Stoic philosophy is all about what's in your control.
Yeah.
Right. You focus on that. Things outside your control, like how people view you or your legacy or any of that. Honestly, I give it very little thought for that reason. And, I think, strong relationships are, while I'm here, strong relationships and amazing experiences and having something that, is a mission that we can look back on and say, you know what, for that period of time, we did something that was really good. That's what I'm focused on. When I'm gone, what people think of me, I don't care. Really, I know it sounds harsh, but I actually don't. As long as I'm doing the right things, I think, and giving people opportunities and they're getting a lot out of it in real time, that's what's important.
Probably the gateway to happiness is to not worry about legacy, not worry about what people think of you. Just enjoy the moment, the relationships.
Yeah, like in a way, it is the ultimate what people think of me, right? Isn't there another word for that? Your legacy is what do people think of you, and if it's a factor when you're dead, then it's probably a factor today as well, right? So I always think people will think what they think, right? And there'll be a whole range of, and it'll be whatever it is, right?
Of course.
But just focus on the fundamentals and let the rest take care of itself.
That being said, family is a legacy that a lot of people, would call it that. So you have a family of, I think, 3 kids you mentioned.
Yep.
What's that been like? Like, how is that? I've recently, I have a co-founder friend of mine that recently had a family, his first son at the age of 27, which is in these days like very young for a man to have a child.
In the West.
In the West, yeah.
What has the experience of having kids done for your mindset and your psychology and the way you approach life? And how did you balance it all with what you're doing now?
The eternal question. How do you balance it all? Look, for me, having kids is, a family for me is number 1, number 2, and number 3, right? Like, that is the priority. Like, and I'm sure you guys have spoken to people that they get, in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and they go, I had one regret, right? Very successful, did all these things, but my relationship with my kids are terrible, or my wife, or whatever. And, you can't guarantee anything, but I try and focus a lot on the family, just because they're the most important thing to me, So, but how do you balance it, right? What about the practical side? Like I said, I'm in the US every 2 months, right? My wife, if my wife wasn't accommodating, right, if she wasn't okay with it, it would be almost impossible for me to do what I do. So that's choosing a partner that
is okay with Calendly links.
Yeah, is that okay with what?
Calendly links. You can book in a time with me. We can do a quick Zoom call, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
my dad taught me an interesting lesson when I was younger. He often said to me that your partner holds 3 stumps of the house and you hold the last one.
Yeah. There's a lot of truth to that, right? Like harmony in the home and there's just a lot of challenges when you run your own company. There's a huge time demand, right? So, and then also you got to look after yourself, right? You can't say, I'm going to, it's family, it's business, and that's it.
Yeah.
Because you're going to burn out, right? The one thing I have noticed, you do become more resilient the longer you go. I think that's important. Like you trend to more resilience.
So as in less things bother you?
Less things bother you. Your capability to handle more is better. I'm not saying just more hours.
Yeah.
I'm saying you learn ways of getting more out of the same amount of time, right? Number 1. And secondly, a great team, if your team is not right, boy, that's a lot of it. That's going to consume huge amounts of your time, right? So things like that. But look, I think ultimately to your question, you just have to make family a priority. You can't have kids and then your business becomes your priority. If you're, and it's all the means of decisions where it's binary, right? Do I do this, do that, do that. So that's it's everyone will do it differently, I suppose. So I don't know. I mean, I don't intimate like a lot of my colleagues that I work with. We all have kids, and we all deal with it differently. But I think ultimately, the test is looking back and saying, "Am I getting it right? Am I getting that balance right?" And maybe passing on some of those lessons. You go entrepreneur, you're gonna learn a huge amount. Yep. Passing on to you, because like Hugo here has a drone business, so he's learning. He's 11 years old, so he's learning how to run a business, and he's just about to start. What are you gonna do?
Do you want to stand up, Hugo, so the camera can see you?
Hugo, introduce yourself to the world.
Okay, I'm Hugo. I'm 11 years old, and I'm an entrepreneur.
What are you doing with your drone? Tell us about your three businesses.
It's not really three.
Or maybe Hugo, tell us what was the first idea you had?
At school, me and my friend, we were thinking of where to make money, and then I thought, why don't we go to the milk bar, buy like a bunch of lollies and resell them for more at school?
That's how it starts.
Yeah, and we did that
at school about that.
Of course.
And when I went home, I was so sad and I was scared because I thought I was going to get in lots of trouble. But then my dad was like, "Oh no, it's a good initiative." I got in so much trouble at school,
But it's the good kind of trouble, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You probably had to learn the rules a little bit better.
Yeah.
And then Dad said garage sales.
Yeah. So I just finished the.
Sorry. Okay. You don't want to sit here.
You guys take it over. Right?
So my dad called up my teacher and said because they had to have a chat, and my teacher said how what I did and stuff, and my dad was like, well, what was it? I respectfully disagree. He said.
I wasn't expecting this story.
he said it was a good initiative.
It was a good initiative. But we also go to garage sales and resell it on eBay. And anyway, so you do some cool stuff.
Yeah, and I've got a drone license. Well, he's got a drone license, but it's mine.
Yeah,
that's right.
So
he took it.
I'm official.
There you go. Thank you.
Good on you, Hugo. Keep it up, brother.
But anyway, so you get to transfer some of your passion to your kids, and he seems to love it. So
I think it's important to plant those seeds and make sure that you can teach your kids that life is more than just getting a degree, going to school, getting an education.
Yeah, and I think that can be fine, right? Yeah. That's great. But it's not the only way. You can go off and do your own thing, and if you're passionate, why not? Give it a go.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
I think with that said, how do you, if you're giving advice to younger founders that are pursuing that sort of entrepreneurial vision, how do you find a partner? What do you look for?
It's a great
what do you look, maybe not how do you find one, what do you look for in a partner, and how do you make that decision of who you're going to love and start a family with?
Okay. So I thought you were talking business partners.
No.
Okay.
Partners.
Life partner.
Gee, we've pivoted.
You said to pivot, right?
How do you? Well, I have been divorced once, so maybe I have experience. That was pre-kids, but how do you? God, that's the eternal question.
It's almost too subjective to answer.
I
can talk from experience.
I can only talk from my personal experience. I think you just need deep connection on values, right? If you know what your values are, and the person that you're meeting have clarity around what's important to them, it doesn't mean you have to literally go, it's 4 things and this is number 1. It's not that, right? You just got to have a personal. Know what you like, know what's important and maybe what's not so important. And I think if you align on those things, right? And it's always a challenge because you're not going to, the first day you can go, okay, what's important? Like, you may not get, it might be not that transactional, right? But you soon get a bit of an idea. I think that's kind of the foundation of a good relationship, of any relationship, any relationship. Like that was kind of the foundation of the relationship I have with Hitesh, right? He's my co-founder. I think the second most common reason companies fail, other than they run out of money, is the
partner fallout.
Partners fall out, right? And I didn't know Hitesh before I met him. I met him once at a conference, so I think it helps to be, if you're a person that is good at picking people, like meeting someone and getting a gut feel, and gut feels are important, right? They're not. That's actually how most successful entrepreneurs operate. But having a very good gut feel because you feel those values are aligned, that's probably the key.
See,
but I'm no expert on this topic. So.
Yeah, I mean, he's speaking from experience, right?
Oliver and I were talking the other day. I was interviewing some candidates, and I mentioned, I've selected these ones, and Oliver said, like, on what criteria? And I just said, oh, just my gut. I just felt that these were the right candidates.
Yeah, I said, well, I mean, I have my own kind of methodology, right? I think gut feeling is one thing, of course, but there are other kind of methodical approaches and
absolutely.
due diligence that you have to do.
And gut feel doesn't scale.
Yeah. I feel like as well.
I can't do all the interviews in the company, right? So it doesn't scale. So you have to have that combination of both of what you're talking about to make it successful.
I think as well, like your gut feeling of things often comes from your perspective and experience of the things that you've lived.
Correct.
So as younger individuals, like Ben and I are fairly young, Ben's a little bit younger than me, like your gut hasn't matured to understand what is good and what is not.
To
some degree.
Gut.
To some degree. But, at what age do you start trusting your gut, right? Like gut feeling is so emotive that that's kind of the challenge with the gut feel, right? You just have to trust it. So that's always I think that's always going to be there. That when do I trust my gut? Should I always trust it?
Yeah.
I know I'd say for the most part, yes.
Great.
Fascinating.
Should we move on to the quickfire round?
Let's move on to the quickfire round.
So we'll wrap it up soon, but we like to do this little segment, which is the quickfire round, where we ask you questions that you viscerally answer, just quick. The questions will come up by AI as well, so we didn't make
by AI?
Yeah.
Wow, okay. This chat GTP thing.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
So the first one is very simple. What is your favourite movie? And why?
Yeah, God. One that I just saw what is it? Top Gun Maverick. That's your favourite movie.
Hugo says Top Gun Maverick.
I did quite like it. Do I go? Okay, Top Gun Maverick. There you go. I'll go around with that.
All right, fair enough.
I was going to say Gladiator.
Gladiator, good movie.
I love that.
Crowe.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you like about it?
Are you not entertained? we do that in the office sometimes.
Yeah.
Are you not entertained?
That's it. The ethos of the cult.
Straight after an investor pitch.
Yeah. I might use that one.
That's it.
Okay, what's your favorite word in another language? Do you know any other languages?
Merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup?
So my wife is Swiss, French Swiss.
Okay.
My kids all say something in French. Here you go.
What should I say?
Say that. What should I say? Say anything. No pressure.
You go. The clock is
anyway. The clock is ticking. We can't be here all night. Go, give us something. That's a song. What is it? Lumiere. Okay, well, light. But anyway, so my wife's dream was for me. This is this rapid fire, isn't it?
Yeah. It's all right. Just go on.
Anyway, I know a little bit of French, tiny little bit, but a little bit of Serbian. Yeah.
I'm Serbian.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh really?
Heritage-wise, my father was born in Yugoslavia. There you go.
Whereabouts?
In Serbia,
Do you know
Zagreb.
which town?
Zagreb.
Oh, Zagreb.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So my
Serbian.
my dad was born in a place called Smiljan.
Yeah, okay.
And if you know, so do you know someone famous who was born in Smiljan?
Djokovic?
Not Djokovic.
Not Djokovic?
I'm not sure.
Nikola Tesla.
Right.
Oh, okay.
And so there is a family folklore. We'll call it a folklore because I haven't got the actual proof that my family and his family did marry into it. There was a marriage there. So there is some. I want to run with it. I want to run with it. I haven't got the actual family tree to prove it, but that's been the legend of the family is that he's Uncle Tesla. You know, he's
Uncle Tesla.
Uncle Tess.
Give us that warm intro after the podcast. If you
Yeah.
can.
Yeah.
We'd appreciate
we can bring people back to life.
That's right.
Yeah. Awesome. What has been your favorite age so far? Like, what the years where you were like, wow, this is good.
It's a good year.
Good year.
Good year. I want to say 23. 23 was a good year.
Yeah.
Okay.
What made it good?
Not 2016.
2016.
The year Hugo was born.
Oh, no. 2016 was the year the Western Bulldogs won
I
the
see.
grand final and after many, many decades. But that was good. That's a good point. 23 because...
Did you wrap up your university degree at the time, or were you in the thick of it?
No, I'm saying like last year. Like it was... I don't know. We just had a lot of wins, like from a work point of view, from a family point of view. It was good. You know, we're heading in a good trajectory. It's all going well. So there's like,
Sure.
I don't know. I'm not the sort of person that looks back and goes, that was the year. That was or that was a crap year. They're all on a longer timescale and journey, right? So, but yeah, I don't know. Last year.
Taking a bit of a different perspective, what do you admire most about your parents?
Ooh, that's a deep one. I think my dad, integrity. Like my dad is I think a very honest person. I'll tell you what I do admire. My dad is 89, and he for the last 40 years he swam just about every day. He's the fittest. He's got to be the fittest 89-year-old on the planet, right? My mum is the longest-serving member of her gym.
Wow.
So my mum does weights. Like she's 80. God, what is she? 82, 83.
Damn.
She does weights in the gym.
Yeah, wow.
So and she does it, and I don't know, 3 or 4 times a week or something. So they're both. They just eat. They have a basic They don't eat out. They have just good home cooked meals. Yeah. And they're healthy. So
good on them.
Those two.
Nutromics patch on each arm.
Yeah.
They also just so happen to be wearing a Nutromics patch on each arm.
Exactly. That's the reason.
Okay. The next question is: what was a hard lesson that took you a long time to learn?
Hard lesson. It might sound counterintuitive, right? But I think early on in my career, if there was something that I was fearful of, I would avoid it. I think it's a common one. And what I've learnt is that when you turn your back on a fear, it grows. And when you face a fear, it gets smaller. And it is literally the only way to deal with it. That's it. And there is freedom, personal freedom, when you can find the courage to do it. And that's not easy, and it's hard. It's one of the hardest things, right? But Tim Ferriss talks about it, about listing the fears that you have and literally doing it. It's actually...
What's it called? It's fear something? Fear...
I can't remember.
Fear journaling?
Something like that. I don't know the name he gave it, but...
Yeah.
But
4-hour work week.
4-hour work week, yeah. But he was the instigator of this company.
Wow.
How so?
Actually, we did some research into that.
No, let him tell the story.
How so? So remember I told you about the working with this company on the optical tech?
Yeah.
So at that time, that was for the skincare business I had, and I read The 4 Hour Body.
Yeah.
And in it, there's a chapter where he talked about a blood test that he had. I don't know if you guys have read The 4 Hour Body. Or
I
not.
haven't actually read it.
Okay. Anyway,
On my list, though.
on the list, yeah. He took a blood test, sent it to this one lab in the world that could do this particular test, right, that showed that he was deficient in selenium.
Okay.
And he was bodybuilding. I don't know if you've seen the what he talks about with his bodybuilding routines.
Yeah.
But anyway, so he ate Brazil nuts, which are high in selenium, and he went like 3x on his testosterone. Because
Wow.
selenium is apparently involved in the production of testosterone, right? So I read that and I went, that sounds cool. So I tried to take my blood and try to figure out how I can send it to this lab in the US. Couldn't do it. And because it would take longer than 24 hours and it would ruin the sample and blah, blah. So that's when I actually was talking to these German companies and I said, I want to do this, but what else? Because carotenoids are a micronutrient and I wanted to test micronutrients. What else can it do? That was the start of Nutromics.
Wow.
So that was where, because the idea was to monitor your micronutrients and modify it with nutrition. That's where the word nutrition, omics, the science of nutrition, that's where it came from.
Wow.
So that's where it actually started, right?
Yeah.
But I got to thank Tim Ferriss for that because that was that
Your
came
moment of clarity.
from his book.
Have you met Tim?
Never. Would love to.
Tim, if you're listening.
Tim is my number.
I'm sure you'll meet him one day. I have no doubt.
I would love to tell him that story.
I'm sure he'd appreciate it.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll wrap up with one final question for reflection. Reflecting back on your journey so far, in your opinion, what is the essence of a meaningful and fulfilling life, and how does one go about discovering and nurturing it?
Boy, that's deep.
Deep. You can take a moment to...
Is that ChatGPT?
No, we come up with this one.
So what is the key to a nurturing and fulfilling life?
Basically, yeah.
Great relationships and meaningful work.
Great relationships and meaningful work.
That's my last rapid. You asked for rapid fire. No, none of it's been rapid. Right?
That's it.
So I thought I'd better end it on something that is short and sweet. But I think that's... I'm quite interested in the research on happiness and fulfillment. And the same conclusions come up over and over again in the research. And that is close relationships are the most meaningful thing for a healthy life and a happy life. And it doesn't need to be 100 people, but a few close friends that you could call in times of crisis, right, which is kind of the definition, that will help you to be healthy and happy. And unfortunately, we live in a world that's increasingly isolating, and we're moving away from that, and it doesn't help us. And I think if we can just focus on that, and I try and focus on that as much as possible, but fulfilling work because that's what we do for many hours of the day, and fulfilling relationships, close relationships where we work with people that we like.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with saying if you're not going to like everyone. You should be bringing people on you like. Not just they're good at the job. You like. You're going to spend a lot of time with them. You need to like them. So that would be my now long answer.
That's good. I think that's a good way to wrap it up.
Incredible.
Peter, thanks so much for coming along.
It's been a pleasure, fellas.
Thanks, Pete.
Awesome.
No worries.
If you like this studio, you like this podcast and the space that we're in, or if you're seeking a dynamic and collaborative environment to fuel your success, don't miss out on Melbourne Connect co-working.
They are now offering an incredible 25% discount on 12-month memberships when you quote ambition in your inquiry. Follow the links in the description to learn more.